I never thought I'd spike a man's drink with roofies just to watch him puke his secrets into a hotel toilet bowl. But that's exactly what I did to my ex-husband on the night before our 10th anniversary party. The betrayal wasn't the divorce papers he served me while I was still in the hospital bed. Miscarrying the baby we'd both pretended to want, no. It was the way he laughed about it later, calling me the glitch in his upgrade. And the real gut punch? He'd framed me for embezzling from our joint production company, the one I'd built from scratch, while he schmoozed at premieres. So he could run off with my best friend, my sister in all but blood, and launch their dream rom-com empire on my stolen scripts. It started 5 years ago, in the sticky heat of a Brooklyn backyard wedding, where fairy lights tangled like nooses in the maple trees and the air smelled of cheap rose and desperation. I was 32, fresh off a string of indie film gigs that had me scraping by on grants and gig economy catering shifts. Margaret Hale, that's me, writer, director. The girl who traded a full ride to Yale for a Super 8 camera and a one-way ticket to the city that chews up dreamers like stale popcorn. I'd met Ethan at a Sundance after-party. Him all Ivy League charm and trust fund smirk, whispering how my short film, Echoes in the Attic, was the future of emotional gut-punch cinema. We bonded over shared cynicism for Hollywood's gatekeepers, married in a courthouse blur 6 months later, and launched Hale Productions from our walk-up in Williamsburg. That wedding we crashed? It was Lila's, my Lila. The one who'd crashed on my couch through every heartbreak since college. The one who'd co-written half my scripts over late-night takeout. She was tying the knot to some venture capitalist named Trent, a walking Rolex ad with a laugh like grinding gears. I showed up solo because Ethan was networking in LA. But really, he was dodging the stack of unpaid invoices piling up on our kitchen table. Lila's crowd was the kind of New York elite that makes you feel like you're auditioning for your own life. Trust fund poets, gallery owners who collect experiences, and influencers whose feeds screamed blessed while their eyes screamed broke. I hovered near the dessert table, nursing a flat seltzer, when Lila swept over in her lace monstrosity, her veil like a bridal surrender flag. Maggie, oh my God. You made it. She air-kissed my cheeks, her perfume a floral assault that masked the faint tang of edibles. Trent loomed behind her, his arm possessive around her waist. And that's when he clocked me, scanning my thrift store sheath dress like I was a prop in his production. Who's this? He asked, loud enough for the cluster of guests to pivot. Lila giggled. That high, brittle sound she reserved for men with money. This is Margaret. She's, like, our budget table success story. Remember that indie flick she did? Total cult hit on the festival circuit. We're seating her with the artsy types. The table erupted in chuckles. The kind that starts polite but curdles into something meaner. Budget table success. It landed like a slap. But I played it cool, forced a laugh. Clinked my glass. Because what else do you do when your lifeline just got rebranded as pity fodder? Ethan called later that night, slurring from some rooftop bar in Silver Lake. And when I told him, he just snorted. Babe, it's networking. Own the underdog vibe. It'll make your comeback arc gold. Comeback? I'd been clawing forward, not rebounding. But that phrase stuck, festering like a bad cut, especially when the next morning's hangover headlines blared about Lila's nuptials. Venture Air weds It Girl screenwriter, Hollywood's next power duo. Little did I know, that It Girl label came with strings attached to my veins. See, Lila hadn't just borrowed my ideas, she'd vacuumed them up whole. Our late-night brainstorms? The rom-com beats I'd sketched for Fractured Vows, about a bride who discovers her fiancé's affair on her wedding day? Those ended up as the backbone of her debut script. Veiled Lies, which Trent bankrolled through his daddy's VC firm. And Ethan? He knew. Hell, he facilitated it, pitching my outlines as Lila's fresh voice to agents while I was buried in revisions for our next project. The first crack showed 6 months later, when Hale Productions landed a co-production deal for a gritty drama about gig workers in the gig economy. I'd poured everything into it. My savings, my sanity. Late nights scripting monologues that ripped open the American dream like a cheap zipper. Ethan handled the money side, charming investors with his boyish grin and fabricated ROI projections. But when the books didn't balance, poof, $150K vanished into creative consulting fees. The feds came knocking, and Ethan, smooth as ever, pointed the finger at me. Maggie's the visionary. She gets impulsive with budgets. Impulsive. Like the time I'd fronted my student loans to cover payroll, or when I skipped meals to pay for that Steadicam rental. The trial was a circus, splashed across Variety and Deadline like tabloid fodder. Indie darling accused of fraud. Is this the end of Hale's halo? I stood in that fluorescent courtroom in Midtown, my thrift suit itching like guilt, while Ethan testified in a bespoke blazer, his eyes not even meeting mine. Lila was there too, in the gallery, dabbing crocodile tears with a silk handkerchief, whispering to Trent about how tragic it is when ambition goes wrong. The judge bought it, probation, restitution I couldn't pay, and a black mark on my IMDb that scared off every financier from here to Austin. Ethan filed for divorce the day the gavel dropped, citing irreconcilable creative differences. Creative differences. As if our marriage wasn't built on my scripts and his schmoozing. But the real secret, the one that clawed at me in the dark hours, it wasn't just the money. It was the baby. We'd been trying for a year, whispering about legacies over lukewarm diner eggs. When the test turned positive, Ethan popped champagne. I finally felt anchored in this floating city of transients. But the shoot ran long, 12-hour days in a freezing warehouse. Me directing extras through frostbitten takes while nausea twisted my gut. Ethan promised he'd handle the wrap party, but instead, he hosted an impromptu investor meet at our loft, complete with coke-dusted mirrors and Lila as the plus one. I came home early, cramps blooming like storm clouds, to find them tangled on our couch, her laughter echoing like shattered glass. The miscarriage hit that night, blood and grief soaking the sheets while he slept off his high on the fire escape. He woke to my sobs, held me like a prop in a sympathy scene, then, 2 weeks later, at the doctor's, confessed it was probably for the best. We're too volatile for kids. Volatile. As if his affair wasn't the spark. I buried the pain in work, but he buried the evidence. Doctor notes forged to show I'd skipped prenatal care for script deadlines, painting me as the reckless one in custody filings that never came. The betrayal wasn't the cheating, it was him letting me grieve alone, then using my loss to justify the split. And Lila? She knew the whole time, texted me condolences from his phone. The coward's way out. Exiled from the industry, I crashed on a cousin's pullout in Queens, temping as a production assistant on low-budget horrors that paid in craft services and IOUs. The city that once pulsed with possibility now felt like a cage, its skyscrapers mocking my fall. But rage is a hell of a fuel, and mine burned slow, methodical. I started small, anonymous leaks to trade rags about Trent's firm laundering indie funds through shell companies. Nothing stuck, lawyers swarmed like locusts, but it itched at them. Then I dug deeper, hiring a PI on credit, the kind who takes payments in vintage cameras, and uncovered the thread that bound them all, Ethan's not-so-secret ledger. hidden in a cloud drive he thought was ironclad. It wasn't just our $150,000. It was a web, siphoning from Lila's veiled lies budget to pad Trent's yacht club dues. Kickbacks to agents who'd blackballed me. The plan crystallized over a six-pack in a dive bar off Steinway. The jukebox crooning Springsteen like a battle cry. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was reclamation. I'd write my way back, bigger, sharper, laced with their poison. I holed up in a sublet in Astoria, churning out Shadows on the Isle, a thriller about a disgraced filmmaker who unmasks a cabal of industry phonies through a viral exposé series. It was cathartic fiction, but rooted in truth, coded references to Ethan's affairs, Lila's plagiarized beats, Trent's fiscal fuckery. I self-produced a proof-of-concept short, shot guerrilla style on my phone, and uploaded it to Vimeo. Views trickled, then surged, shared by burned assistants and jaded critics who smelled blood. By spring, it hit 500K streams, catching the eye of a rogue producer at Tribeca. This is raw.
Hail.
Like Gone Girl meets The Social Network, but with teeth. We fast-tracked it to script. Me directing from the margins. Every frame a middle finger. Ethan caught wind through the grapevine, sliding into my DMs with that faux concerned tone. Heard you're making waves. Let's grab coffee, clear the air? I replied with a screenshot of his ledger entry for Lila's launch bonus, $75K from our joint account. Silence. Then, the flip. He went public. A podcast tell-all where he opened up about our toxic marriage, painting me as the unstable genius who'd spiraled after the loss. The miscarriage. Weaponized again. Listeners ate it up. Team Ethan trended, with think pieces on the dark side of female ambition. Lila, ever the chameleon, pivoted next. She reached out via mutuals, offering a collab on her next project. We were sisters once.
Maggie.
Let's heal.
Heal.
As if she hadn't ghosted me post-trial, or liked Ethan's pity posts from a burner account. I played along, meeting her at a cafe in Soho. All exposed brick and overpriced lattes. She was radiant, pregnant now, Trent's heir apparent glowing under her silk blouse. I know it hurt, she cooed, stirring her matte jaw like a potion. But Ethan's poison. We can team up, expose him. The irony was delicious. Her begging alliance after years of silent sabotage. I nodded, eyes on her belly, wondering if history rhymed. That's when I dropped the roofie bomb, metaphorically, at first. Over reconciliation, drinks at his favorite speakeasy in the village, Ethan monologued his redemption arc. Oblivious to the bartender I'd tipped to lace his old-fashioned with a truth serum chaser, benzos. Not actual serum. I'm no cartoon villain. He spilled everything. How he'd doctored the books to force my hand. Convinced I'd take the fall quietly for the greater good of their careers. How Lila had pitched the frame job over champagne toasts. Her ambition a black hole sucking in loyalties. She flipped on you, 'cause you were holding her back, he slurred, swaying on the stool. Too real. Too broke.
But me?
I loved you.
Mags.
Still do. This is all for us. To build something bigger.
Bigger.
The word that justified every cut. I recorded it all, discreetly, my phone tucked in my purse like a loaded gun, and walked him to his hotel, arm around his waist like old times. He retched it up in the marble bathroom. Confessions echoing off the tiles, the forged notes, the stolen scripts, even the whisper campaign that tanked my probation appeal. By dawn, I had the files zipped and encrypted, a digital guillotine. But revenge, I've learned, isn't a solo act. I sent copies to Lila first, anonymized. With a note, "Your move, sister." She called in hysterics, begging a meet.
Trent.
Sensing the tide, offered a settlement, $200,000 to bury it, plus co-producer credit on my film. I laughed into the receiver. Tell Ethan the budget table's reserved. The climax hit at the Golden Globes after-party. That glittering cesspool where egos float like oil slicks on champagne flutes. Shadows on the Aisle had snagged noms, Best Screenplay. Best Director, me. The has-been, and the room buzzed with whispers. Was Hale's comeback for real? Or just viral pity porn? Ethan was there. Arm candy a starlet half his age. Schmoozing voters with tales of his phoenix rise. Lila waddled in on Trent's arm. Her bump a shield. Her smile a rictus. They cornered me near the hors d'oeuvres. A triad of false reconciliation. "We can all win," Ethan murmured, breath hot with scotch. "Drop the dirt. I'll back your sequel." I raised my glass. The room's flashbulbs popping like distant gunfire. "Win? Like how you won the baby? The company? My name?" The words hung. Controversial as a live wire. Guests pivoting.
Phones slyly angling.
Lila's face cracked. Hand fluttering to her belly. "That's low. Maggie. For the child's sake. Child." The invocation twisted the knife, forcing the room to choose. The betrayed mom-to-be, or the vengeful ex who dragged grief into the spotlight. I hit play on my phone. The audio spilling Ethan's confessions like bile, gasps rippling outward. A producer I knew muttering, "Holy shit. That's admissible." Trent lunged for the device. But security swarmed. Lila sobbed theatrically, collapsing into a chair as medics buzzed. Ethan just stared, betrayed by his own tongue, his empire crumbling in real time. The clip went viral before dessert, budget table revenge trending from LA to London, splitting the industry. Some hailed me as a whistleblower, a Me Too Avenger. Others branded me ruthless, exploiting trauma for clicks. Was I right to air the miscarriage? The ledgers? The lies? Or had I become the monster, doxing their sins at the cost of an unborn kid's privacy? The debate raged in op-eds and Reddit threads, polarizing friends, forcing picks, Team Truth, or Team Mercy. In the fallout, shadows swept the awards, mine. All mine, while Ethan lawyered up for fraud. Lila decamped to the Hamptons for maternity leave, and Trent's firm imploded under SEC scrutiny. I stood on that Tribeca stage, statuette heavy in my palm, the lights blinding as applause thundered. Victory tasted like ash, though sweet, but laced with what-ifs. Had I healed? Or just scarred them deeper? The twist came 9 months later, in a sterile delivery room at Mount Sinai, where Lila's water broke amid contractions and canceled press junkets. I'd risen Phoenix style. Shadows grossed $87 million domestic, spawning a franchise greenlit by streamers hungry for controversy. My directorial follow-up, Veil of Lies, a meta-thriller twisting her rom-com tropes into horror, was in pre-pro, with A-listers circling the lead. Ethan rotted in pretrial house arrest in his Tribeca penthouse, reduced to Zoom cameos on true crime pods. His charm curdled into cautionary tale. Trent, facing indictments that peeled back layers of his family's legacy investments, he sold the yacht to cover bail. But me? I was untouchable until the call from the hospital chaplain. MS. Hale, it's about Lila Voss.
She's
asking for you. Asking. Not demanding, not accusing, the word hung soft, laced with something I'd never heard from her: vulnerability. I drove crosstown in the pre-dawn fog, the city a ghost of its neon self, my mind replaying every flip, every betrayal. Was this a trap? A final ploy to humanize her? To flip the narrative one last time? Or genuine, the kind of raw edge that only near death or near birth carves out? She looked small in the bed, monitors beeping like accusatory ticks, her hair matted, face stripped of makeup's armor. No Trent. Rumor had it he'd bolted for Dubai after the pleas dried up.
Ethan?
Banned from the premises after a drunken voicemail rant. The baby, a girl, tiny and squalling in the bassinet, had arrived breech. Lila hemorrhaging enough to code twice on the table. Maggie, she whispered as I hovered in the doorway, her voice a rasp. I named her Echo. After your film. You're short. Echo. The hook that started it all, my Sundance breakthrough. The one she'd borrowed for her breakout. I sank into the vinyl chair, the room's antiseptic chill seeping into my bones. Why me? After everything. She turned her head, for lines tugging like puppet strings. Because you're the only one who gets it. The grind, the secrets we bury to keep going. I didn't just steal your scripts.
Mags.
I stole your fight, the part that wouldn't quit. Tears tracked her cheeks. Not the performative kind, but jagged.
Real. Ethan.
He was the poison. But I brewed it. Framed you to feel big, to outrun being the sidekick. And the baby, our baby, yours and his, I knew about the affair before you did. Told him to end it clean, or I'd spill. Her confession unspooled like a bad take. How she discovered the pregnancy during a script read-through. Jealousy twisting into sabotage. I slipped the extras into his drink that night. Pushed the party late. Wanted you stressed. Off your game.
Miscarriage was.
Collateral. Collateral. The word I'd used in my acceptance speech. Reframing loss as industry jargon. Now it boomeranged, forcing me to see her not as villain, but vessel, cunning. Yes, but cracked by the same American hustle that broke us both. I hated you for shining, she admitted. But mostly, I hated myself for dimming to match him. The room tilted. Monitors a chorus to her unraveling. Part of me wanted to bolt, leave her to the wreckage, claim the high ground I'd clawed for. But the baby stirred, fist curling like a question mark, and something shifted. Echo. A name that echoed back. Demanding debate. Was forgiveness the ultimate revenge? Or just another flip? I took her hand, calloused from keyboards we'd once shared, and whispered, we'll rewrite this. Together. Not clean, scars don't fade, but collaborative, the way we'd started. Words spread like wildfire. Redemption arc or too little too late. Pundits picked sides, feminists cheering the sisterhood reclaim. Cynics decrying my Stockholm softness. Ethan seethed from his gilded cage, leaking voicemails accusing me of enabling the enemy. Trent's lawyers circled, sniffing for leverage in the softened narrative.
But I
directed from the NICU waiting room. Scripting echoes unbound. Our story. Unvarnished. Betrayal's gray zones. Where no one's holy hero or heel. Lila co-wrote from her recovery bed, her insight sharp as ever, flipping tropes into truths that blurred blame. The premiere was electric, Lincoln Center ablaze. Paparazzi a frenzy as Lila and I ascended the steps. Echo swaddled between us like a truce flag. Ethan boycotted, but his absence loomed, a shadow in every frame. Critics raved. Hale and Voss dissect the revenge porn of ambition. Brilliant. Brutal. Begging argument. Box office shattered records. Awards piled like vindication. Yet in the quiet afterglow, nursing echo through colic nights in my now upgraded loft, I wondered, had I won? Or just traded one cage for a prettier one? The real twist? 6 months post-premiere. A manila envelope arrived. No return address. Postmarked LAX. Inside, Ethan's original ledger, annotated in his scrawl, plus a USB drive of raw footage, our wedding vows, unedited. Him vowing till the credits roll, with eyes already wandering. A note, you always said stories need an unreliable narrator. Turns out, that was me. Keep writing ours right.
E.
Unreliable. The word that defined us. I burned the drive that night, ashes scattering from my fire escape into the Hudson's gleam. But the ledger? I framed it not as trophy, but reminder. Because in this city of reinventions, revenge isn't the end, it's the edit. And mine? It's ongoing, controversial as ever, with no clear cut to black. Looking back, that wedding slight feels like the opening crawl, innocuous until the plot twists gut you. Budget table success. It branded me, but brands fade under spotlights you steal back.
Now.
With Echoes Unbound, netting Oscar buzz and Lila bunking in my guest room, Trent's divorce papers final. His empire dust. Life hums a tense new rhythm, playdates laced with script notes. Board meetings where I veto her rom-com detours for thriller edges. Echo's first word? Cut. Fitting. For a kid born of cuts, literal and literary. Ethan's note lingered.
Though.
A ghost in the margins. Unreliable narrator. It gnawed, prompting late-night scrolls through his socials, scrubbed clean, save for cryptic posts about second acts in the suburbs. Rumor had it he'd relocated to Austin's tech scene, pivoting to AI script generators, peddling emotionally authentic bots trained on scraped indie archives. Mine included. The irony stung, my revenge birthing his resurrection. But when a gaffer from our old crew, tipped me off to his confessional memoir deal, I couldn't resist. I flew solo to South by Southwest, incognito in a ball cap and oversized shades, blending into the badge-wearing hordes like a spy in plain sight. He was mid-panel, from fraud to founder, reinventing after rock bottom, his voice that same velvet drawl, now edged with TED Talk polish. The crowd lapped it up, burned-out devs and aspiring podcasters nodding like disciples. Betrayal's the great equalizer, he intoned, slides flashing bullet points of lessons learned. I slipped into the Q&A, mic in hand, heart hammering like a clapperboard. Ethan Hale? Margaret Hale here. Quick question. In your chapter on collateral damage, do you mention how you dosed your wife to trigger her miscarriage? Or is that saved for the director's cut? The room froze. A collective inhale sucking the oxygen dry. His face, God. That face. Once my anchor, drained to putty, eyes darting like cornered prey. Whispers erupted. Phones igniting the live tweet inferno. Maggie, he choked. Mike feedback screeching accusation.
This
is about healing, not dredging.
Healing.
Again with the buzzword, as if therapy absolved theft. The moderator cut the feed, but damage bloomed, clips viraling, his deal evaporating overnight. Austin's comeback king dethroned anew. Back in New York, Lila waited with takeout tie and a raised brow. Petty or poetic, she asked, chopsticks poised. I shrugged, the thrill souring fast. Both. Neither. Echo gurgled from her high chair, oblivious, her tiny fingers smearing sauce like abstract art. Poetic. Maybe, echoing his flip on me with one of my own. But petty? Undeniably. It split our fragile pact, Lila, fresh from her own betrayals, urged mercy. He's broken. Mags. Like we were. Broken. As if fractures excuse the breaking. The debate spilled public, my South by Southwest stunt dissected in Vanity Fair spreads, Hale's Vendetta 2.0, empowerment or endless war? Feminist split, some crowning me unapologetic, others cautioning against trauma ping-pong. Ethan countersued for defamation. His filings a litany of half-truths. MS. Hale's actions constitute harassment, perpetuating a cycle of abuse. Abuse. The word weaponized again, blurring lines until I couldn't tell victim from vigilante. In therapy, mine now. Solo sessions and a Chelsea walk-up, I unpacked it. Was I avenging? Or addicted? The shrink. A no-nonsense jersey transplant.
Leaned in.
Revenge is American as apple pie. Margaret. But pie's cool. What's your next bite? Next bite, the sequel. Unbound 2, Reckoning Frames. We titled it. Lila's rom-com heart-clashing my thriller pulse. Birthing a hybrid beast about exes entangled in a viral scandal. Casting calls drew A-listers wary of the heat. But we landed a firecracker lead, a non-binary up-and-comer who'd live-tweeted their own industry ousting. Shooting wrapped in a sweltering July. Locations from Brooklyn lofts to Hamptons estates loaned by Trent's jilted exes. On set, Lila and I danced a delicate two-step, her softening my edges, me sharpening hers. You're the structure, she'd say, scribbling revisions. I'm the spark. Sparks that once ignited betrayal now fueled creation. But shadows crept. Echo's first birthday fell on a location scout in the Catskills, a rustic inn where Lila and I once plotted our first joint script over smuggled wine. The party was small, catered cupcakes, a bounce house under threat of thunder. As we sang off-key, my phone buzzed, unknown number. Ethan's voice. Ragged. Saw the trades. Congrats on the kid's day. Listen. Mags, I'm clean. 6 months.
And. I'm sorry. For real this time.
Not the PR kind.
Pause.
Breath ragged. The ledger? That was my white flag. But your stunt? It broke something. Meet me? Neutral ground. Foreclosure. Closure. The holy grail of messy Americans. Peddled in self-help aisles and Netflix queues. I hung up. Cake frosting sticky on my fingers. Lila's eyes questioning over the candles. Him. Nod. Always him. We drove back at dusk. Echo asleep in her car seat. The highway a ribbon of taillights stretching toward uncertain horizons. Neutral ground, a diner off I-87. The kind with checkered floors and pie undersneeze guards. Fluorescent hum underscoring every hard truth. He looked diminished, stubble shadowing his jaw. Eyes clear but haunted. Nursing black coffee like absolution. No entourage. Just a worn notebook. Pages dog-eared with what looked like therapy prompts. I deserved the South by Southwest hit, he started. No preamble. Wrote the book to rewrite myself, make you the villain, so I wasn't the fool. Flip again, Ethan. Eternal shapeshifter. Owning his slight just enough to disarm. But the miscarriage? I replay it nightly. Pushed too hard. Drank too much. Your pain. It was mine to carry, not dodge. Tears welled, unscripted. And for a beat, I saw the boy from Sundance, raw with potential. Why now? I pressed, fork spearing untouched pecan. Echoes here. Lila's trying.
We're
Building. He slid the notebook across, drafts of a new script, his handwriting intertwining with mine, scanned pages from our old outlines, annotated with regret. Because you're winning without me. And I can't live with being the ghost in your machine. Co-write? Not for glory, for us. The real us. Before the flips. The offer hung. Controversial as a plot pivot, redemption arc for the antagonist. Or Trojan horse for round 3. I thought of Echo's laugh. Lila's tentative trust. The industry's watchful eyes. American dreams thrive on second chances. Rags to riches. Falls to flights. But at what cost? I pocketed the notebook. Stood. Maybe. But on my terms. No more secrets. His nod was small. Grateful. The diner door chiming like a tentative cue.